Nice. Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty on our Redline rebuild series. And today I'm going through and we wrapped up the Cadillac engine. It is done and you can hear it is purring nicely. Now, if you have not watched the time-lapse video, get over there and go watch it, because it turned out pretty dang cool, if I say so myself. Ben and the crew did a beautiful job. But today, John and I are going to walk you through where we're headed next. Cadillac's done, and now we got to get back to this down here at this end. So what we have in our West Bay stall is our 37 Ford Chrysler GM race car that we have to finish up the installation of our crossmember. So we're going to get after this here in a minute, and that way we can get after the next engine project, which will be this 440 Chrysler. Now when I say engine, I mean engine and not motor, because motors go in motorcycles. It's over here. So here is our CT70, completely tore apart. We have parts in the works, we have parts coming, we have parts getting re-chromed, we have parts getting painted, you name it. Everything is kind of scattered a little bit at this point, but scattered in a very strategic manner. Trust me. So next step on this project, and we will be doing this in the next couple weeks, is getting the engine and everything cleaned up and then reassembled, and then of course getting after the paint on the main chassis and such. And you can see we have, you know, our part shelf here is a little scattered with some other stuff in the way. But that's where we're at. But mainly today, I need to get this crossmember in, like I said, so I can get the engine back out and start the machining process on that and get that project on the way, because that will be one of our next engine time lapses. So without any more waiting around, they're telling me I got the nod and I need to get to work. We're going to use some pretty simple stuff to make a crossmember, and it's a race car. Keep it simple. So we're going to simply utilize some square tubing, some angle iron, and a little bit of flat stock to create a mount. So here's our stock mounting location for the transmission. I am going to use a rubber bushing in here, or rubber mount, which unfortunately won't be here till tomorrow, but hey, we can still make some progress today. So strategy is the 1.5 inch square tubing will come across here. It will have a little overhang. I'll just use this as an example. That comes here, bushing or the mount in between, bolt down to the plate, and that will hold it. Now, obviously, our piece of steel cannot just hover in the middle of the car. So I am going to, I'm going to clean up where we cut the other mount off, but I'm going to take a piece of angle iron, the larger stuff, and I'm going to lay that across here, weld that to the frame rail. That's going to give me a support for a piece welded here to come onto and then hang on to it. Now that height is going to have to be adjusted. Whoops. That height has to be adjusted relative to the mount when we come, but I know that I want this mount to be about 3 inches long, and then my frame mount to be probably 4. That way I get a little bit of sliding room to make some adjustments if I have to. So we're going to start with that. And we have a couple of different options as far as how to cut the steel. We're going to start with kind of the old standby. I do not have a bandsaw, but I do have a good old-fashioned sawzall or reciprocating saw with a demolition blade on it here that Diablo dropped off for us, and we're going to give this thing a run for its money, because this is fairly thick, not crazy, but they're guaranteeing me that it'll motor on through this without an issue. I do need to make a couple lines because, well, I'm not that good to make it square by eye. So let's find a triangle and get this cut off. Look at that, triangle. See, sweet. And you know I have no idea where a tape measure's at. So by my estimation, I don't even like 4 inches. I think that's a little narrow. Again, I'm not that good. So we got 1.5 inches here. That's a little tight. Let's go. Let's go 4 inches on the cross member and 5 on the frame. Seems like a reasonable guess. So 5 inches. And get this rolled over here. All right, so at this point, I just want to get this prepped. I went through and welded stuff on, and it's not bad, but I got a little booger here to knock off and a couple things like that. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just polishing things up. Don't confuse. I did weld it, and I'm not grinding it so it looks good. I'm just taking a couple of little imperfections off, because there's a big difference between a welder and a grinder, or a grinder and a welder. And we all know what we're talking about. Well, we got our transmission mount in this morning, and I've already taken and made sure that this whole pattern bolts up to the bottom end. And I've kind of spun things around trying to decide if I want it to be this forward or that backwards, and it's pretty quality. But okay, so anyhow, we've got a plan of attack. We're going to stick with what we talked about yesterday as far as, we're going to have on the frame rail. I'm going to weld this to the I'm going to weld this to the frame rail down, and then this is going to come over the top of it to hold it, and then this will be my cross member, come into the side, and then add my mount feature to hold this. So these pieces are cut, ready to roll. With exception, I am going to shorten them a little bit. So I have one up in the vise. I'm going to take 3/4 of an inch off of this. So this land here is a little bit shorter. All it's doing is putting my cross member closer to the frame rail as opposed to kind of hanging out a little further. It'll make it just a little bit stronger. Just going to use some 3/8 bolts. So I grabbed washers, and basically all I did is said, "Oh, throw my washer in here," made a mark and said, "Look at that, it's 3/4 of an inch off." We're going to use the Diablo blade here and make it thinner. All right, so here we go. We have our cross member temporary up here with a clamp. And then we got our side brackets in. We got them relatively close to position. And it looks like I'm going to simply be able to take the long bar and the side brackets completely out of here, lay them right up on the table, and weld everything flat. It'll be just nice and square. Be done with that. Then we can bring it all back in here and put this frame bracket in. And then of course punch some holes as far as our attachment, because I'm going to bolt this together. I'm not going to weld it together. As far as the cross member needs to be removable. So we'll bolt that together, and then I'm going to take in, and then I'll weld the frame bracket in kind of the last piece of things. So I guess pull it all back out again. Get it on the table. Break out the welder. Well, since I have a nice table and I don't have any splatter guard, when you weld, I found that if I coat my table with a little bit of oil, I don't get all the splatter sticking to my table. So if you have anti-splatter, that'd be fantastic. All right, well here we go. We have all of our holes in. We're completely welded up with exception of the frame brackets, which I'll finish up here in a moment. But you can see that we got a little new toy, well, new to us toy, as far as the Bridgeport. So we used that to put in those holes, and it was nice because I could clamp them in nice and tight and then drill through both bracket going to the frame rail and bracket to the cross member. So that worked out really well, and we'll have some more projects. I'm sure that Bridgeport will be very useful. So I guess at this point we're going to just wrap this up as far as welding it to the frame, and then this piece of the project's done. That motor can come out and we can start that process. So I'm going to finish this up and then I'm going to skedaddle on because I got other work to get done too. So you do as well. When you're done with this, make sure you watch that time lapse. That was pretty cool. And then get in the shop, get your work done. See ya.